Is it right?
Is it right?
If
And
your child is
now
there.
every other person who has a filling station, you know, or something sited close to them has qualms. But then I'm also cautious for us to not label all of them, because once we shut them out, where would we be getting the fuel? So it's between like the devil and the deep blue sea. A case in point is the gas station by the Odogono school, and the other one by the Anya market yesterday that we spoke about. So critical areas, and sometimes you're wondering, okay, so Odogono school, they are cooking with fire, the people who live close by, what exactly is happening?
Anyway,
you know?
guys.
So it's the routine check that is the problem. The routine check. I lived closer to a filling station that also had a gas receptacle at Abosoka. That's where Yampofuankre's father used to sell. You know, he was a pharmacist, Mr. Ampofu, his past, may he rest in peace. We've never had an explosion there before. I've lived there since I was a boy, up until this time. We've never ever had one before, because they are always cautious trying to maintain it. And that's not to say that the new filling stations don't abide by it. But look at the old brands, Shell, Total, Goil. Look at them, BP and all of that. Then look at the new ones. So what is happening?
John, there's a story on the Statesman. No regulations on gas distribution. I don't know, but in a few places that I have gone to, I didn't see these cylinders sitting on the surface of the
platform.
ground.
Okay.
I don't know whether we are doing something wrong. I saw gas stations, but I didn't see the bottle.
Okay.
I don't know where they were. I didn't see the bottle.
Right.
The gas stations out there are just like the filling stations we have here.
Okay.
So it is only the pump
that you see,
there,
but it's buried underground.
I don't know.
You don't know where they come from.
So you just pick the nozzle and then you put it in your vehicle and then you go.
Offload.
So I don't know whether the bottle is buried underground or wherever it is.
That definitely brings the point. I mean, we could look, there's something that we can copy from them, unless, of course, they tell us temperature plays a role and all that, but I'm sure they'll look at that.
You see, in other jurisdictions, for example, you don't have to carry a cylinder, and that conversation started earlier this year, where you don't have to carry a cylinder to go and collect, what do you call, to go and get gas and bring home. It's right from source. It runs through a tube underground, and so when you activate it in your kitchen, you get it. It also has its own set of challenges.
So it means that in a way, gas can be buried under the earth.
Yes, I mean, how else is that? Okay. But if you consider the small gutters we have, somebody says our gutters are so small, it's been rolled like spring rolls. How do we? Because in America, people can walk in tunnels and gutters.
All right.
Anyway, guys, it's time for Daily Run. What are we talking about? There are little rains, and yet Accra is flooding. So when the big rains come, what will happen to Accra? Probably you and I will be nowhere to be found.
Little rains, big floods.
It doesn't mismatch, you know. So definitely it's time to look at it critically. Of course, we don't want it to happen again before we start talking about it, because the mantra has become never again. So let's rant about flooding.
President Rawlings's wall, his rich residence wall, was broken as a result of the small rain we had on Friday. Small rain. That's a national security issue.
It definitely is.
Water is very powerful.
We started a rant, but what does George and the people on the street have to say about little floods, little rains rather, and big floods? Let's hear what they have for us this morning.
Today on Daily Rant, we are talking floods. Well, you and I know the devastations these floods cause to lives and property. There have been calls for the replanning of the capital city, but is that a way to go? And also the sector minister, Atachian, says Ghana needs $700 million to check the drainage system in the country. But in all these, can we surmount this hurdle? This is Daily Rant. Let's keep talking.
I believe it's surmountable. There is no challenge in the world which has no solution. It's just sad, unfortunate that in Africa this situation keeps recurring and recurring. Sometimes I wonder if, God forbid, we should experience any of these hurricanes in the US, what we can do as a nation. It's very sad. It's very sad.
So for us it's a problem, definitely. We could solve it. The issue is we the people ourselves, we are not getting our leaders accountable when it comes to issues like this, because when it happens, they only come, give us a message of condolence, give us rice as if we are in some
mattress and
we are in some war zone area B. You see, those are some of the things. After they do that, then they go away, then we forget until it happens again. Yeah. Then we keep the media, everybody will start shouting this, that. Just give it 3 days, then it will go off again. You see, I think we need to critically sit down, analyze, and then solve it. I remember some time back, this AMA came out with some survey that there were some buildings,
waterways.
Yes, on waterways, and those are considered. That are not the only problem. If they are saying they are now seeing those buildings on the waterways, are they trying to say they don't collaborate with the lands commissions before people acquire land, giving permits to build and all those? You see, structures in Ghana, I don't know. I don't know what actually is happening. But if we are to be serious as a nation, it also goes to we the individuals, the choked drainage systems we have in the country. If we could stop sellers, the hawkers, those who sell food, from building their stores close to drainage ways where the gutters are, it will go a long way to help, because those people, after they are cleaning everything, they will put those drainage into the gutter, and then it goes and then chokes somewhere. At the slightest rain, it will flood and then it will take lives.
I think everything is possible as long as we are humans. And then one thing is that I think with the issue of drainage and flooding, I think it all boils down to discipline. Because we the individuals, I would say, are not disciplined enough. Because when you look at the causes of this drainage and then flooding, first of all, talking about improper disposal of waste is still with discipline, because if you are not disciplined enough, I don't think that if you are disciplined enough, I don't think you go around throwing refuse in gutter and then for you to choke. And also another thing is improper planning of the city, I would say, because when you look at some of these structures that we have in place here, or some of these lands that have been sold to individuals, I think these chiefs sold these lands, so they just cut some part of the land and then just sell it to you without even you going to lands commission to even check if it's a waterlogged area or so. I think there are a lot of things that we have to do to be able to curb this.
Anytime there's flood, it exposes our poor drainage system. And I remember last time the Works and Housing Minister Atachian said Ghana needs like $700 million to check drainage system. It's huge money. Do you think it's something that the government will prioritize? $700 million.
Yeah, that is so much of the money.
Yeah.
Just on a simple issue. Just like my brother said, it has to do with attitude, not something. We are not so disciplined. It's very sad. And you see, we've spoken about these rubbish cans. We have Zoom Lion. We have Nadmo. It's sad. We always wait until something happens, then you see these people in a rush to come and work. It is not the best. These monies can be used to do proper things, which can curb, some of these incidents. But that is not the case at all. You see, we've also politicized almost everything in our nation. These are national issues that when it happens, we have to face it squarely as a people. But you see the major political parties, divided when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Somebody comes, the predecessors couldn't do it, we will try and do something, they try to play politics with all these things. For me, the money is too much. We don't need to spend all this money on simple, drain.
But do they even have a choice? Because if this is going to check, perennial flooding, they don't have any choice. They should just fix it, regardless of where they will get the money from.
Sometimes I doubt, when they mention some of this money, you even want to question our engineers and stuff. They are the same people who come and present all these things, in a nice way. But then when you give them the opportunity to solve it, you'll be amazed that the next year we are going to experience the same thing. I was speaking to a friend, he told me, why don't we go and bring the whites to come and do all these things for us? That is also something people will accept in a way, but not in today's Ghana.
Anytime such things happens, they come out with a budget, maybe committee on this amount is needed, this amount for this amount. All the time they bring amount, they take those monies, we don't see anything. Those monies, I don't think, like my brother is saying, it's true. It's like we are not trying to learn. Let's bring the white men. They should come and then take charge of it. And do this for us. Because if we give this 700 million or whatever they are asking for, the next year when we should experience such rainfall, we will still face the same problem.
But look at the Friday's rainfall, the morning one. It was something like drizzling, but see the devastation it caused. So you can imagine if it was great rainfall.
Yes. So you see. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was not that heavy, but you see, sometimes some of these our drainage system, when you look at where the floods or where the drains are choked, sometimes the drainage system is clear though, but because of one or two lapses that are between them, some are like maybe companies, schools, and maybe houses that have illegally connected their pipes to the main drainage system. That is what caused the choke, because when this rubbish come in contact with them, it causes a blockage. You understand? And then I think with the money issue, I think it's a lot. But I'll rather like to hear them saying they want to pump that part of the money into educating maybe the citizens. So
maybe NCC to carry out
something like that. And then maybe they will use the rest maybe to just construct maybe let's say good bridges and then other things, and then to just take out all these lapses when it comes to drainage, so there will be free flow of water.
Also, you see, the community where we are in now, Nima, I think, you see, with the drainage systems we have here, if they could make it deeper and then have it covered, it will go a long way to work. Because, yes, when it's covered, it will help us. Because the reason I'm saying this is, the other time when that disaster happened, the June 3rd, that happened in Nima, people's properties, with some people even dying, it's all because of the rubbish coming and they're like gathering at one side to block the water from going. So you see, it overflew and then like it went to houses to destroy. But if it is deep and it is covered, rubbishes wouldn't go inside the gutter. It will just have a straight flow, and then it will go a long way to help. Than they saying they need 700 million for it. They should give us that money. We will do a better job for them.
There have been several floods, and the last one was that of Fridays. With all the floods, the death toll is high. So would you say, as a country, we don't learn because it's repetitive? It keeps continuing, the same old mistakes, and we still do it.
We've been too relaxed with our leaders. When they go on air, when it comes, they bring us this rice. They come and then give us fake promises. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, then we forget it, and then we still go back until it happens again. You see, we need to keep the leaders on their toes. You see, in every community, if you could employ youth in the community
who are willing to even do it.
You see, yes, there should be what guys around. If around Nima we employ 50 youth to monitor how we dispose rubbish around, that will go a long way to help. That's true. You understand? Like keeping the environment clean and then all those stuffs. That way, when it rains, it just go. See, as I was telling you, that rain, the gutter was full, and if it was to rain for 30 or an hour more, it will still destroy property because it will go into houses. Why? Because there are rubbishes which are not allowing the waters to flow. So we need the leaders. They need to pump the money to us. So they need to pump it to us so that we do the work individually. When we should monitor those things and then make sure the community is clean, gutters are clean, rubbishes are disposed to the right places. We wouldn't be facing such challenges. Yes.
What do you make of the rains and the never-ending floods that come with it? Your views and thoughts are welcome. Just go onto our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's News on TV3, and on Twitter, it's News TV3. We came to you from Nima here at Accra. Thanks for watching, and keep watching NewDay.
Right, welcome back. And let's start here. The Finder says foreigners drive out Ghanaians from pharmaceutical industry. That's the biggest story on the Finder this morning. Comprehensive action plan against fall army worm unveiled. The story is on page 3. The Statesman says no regulations on gas distribution. NPA to engage 200 extra safety auditors. That's on the Statesman. The Times says Medina atomic gas explosion. I'm deeply hurt by deaths. President talking there. And then 3, grabbed for stealing at gas explosion site. UPSA students demo over sighting of filling station there. The Ghana Palava says Vigilant NDC chase Akufo-Addo over Mahama project. NPP lawyers plot October witch hunt. Hold lavish meeting at high-end hotel. The custodian says Mahama boys award 10 billion cedi sole-sourced contract to cronies in 7 months. Those are the papers I have with me this morning. My guest is Reverend Johnny Timfordjo, Member of Parliament for the Assin South constituency, a member of the NPP. Good morning.
Good morning.
And hope you're doing great.
I'm doing well, right? And yourself?
I am great too. Thanks so much for joining. Let me start with the Daily Graphic this morning. The biggest story on page 3 is typed for talk is over in the wake of atomic junction gas explosion. President declared. The story says that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo says time for talking is over and now is the time for action, reiterating government resolve to bring decency and guarantee the safety and security of people in the fuel and gas distribution chain. The president said government would not delay in coming out with the necessary measures to contain gas and fuel explosions in the country. He was speaking when he visited the scene of a gas explosion at the atomic junction in Accra yesterday. So that's the president story. Reverend, what does the president mean when he says time for talk is over?
Good morning, Bright, once again, and a good morning to our cherished viewers, and good morning especially to the good people of Asinsat constituency. I must begin by commiserating with the families of those who have unfortunately lost their lives when the atomic gas fuel station went up in flames, and also to commiserate with the injured and to say that my prayers are with them, and also my condolences to the late journalist who was part of the presidential press corps. Yeah. My condolences to the family. It is very sad for us as a nation, particularly owing to the fact that this is not the first time that we have had these incidents occurring. In the past 3 years, haven't had 7 of such similar incidents happening. I couldn't agree more with the president that a lot more lesson would have been learnt, and then would have moved away from the rhetorics and actually taking concrete action in bringing necessary reforms that will ensure that these sightings do not take place. I would want to first of all take it even from the regulations point of view, and here to appeal to the parliamentary committee on mines and energy to take more seriously the regulations that actually regulate the sporadic sighting, the sporadic sighting, specifically the sporadic sighting of fuel stations and gas fuel stations. Now, in the wake of this explosion, we have seen students of UPSA threatening to stage some demonstrations in protest of a fuel station that has been sited very close to the school, just opposite the gate, where a lot of commercial activities take place. In any unlikely, I pray that we do not get to those eventualities, but in any unlikely event that any such incident should occur, one cannot quantify the losses. And sometimes, listening to some stakeholders who had the occasion to manage some of these mandates in the past, and some of the challenges they citing political pressure, citing pressure from financiers, and citing all manner of pressures, the question I ask myself is, at the end of the day, if state institutions and officials fail to take stringent decisions that will protect the citizenry, the few elite who may have their fuel stations sited in any such eventualities, they may have had their facilities insured. I mean, they may have their facilities insured, their investments may be protected.
Right.
Even in cases where they are not protected, their investments may just go down, and failure to have instituted measures and actually went through the regulations would have saved that investment. Granted that even the person had subscribed to an insurance package which will safeguard his investment, the lives that are lost, the lives that are injured cannot be restored, cannot be recovered. And I think that in this age, we have seen the narratives in other jurisdictions, even in the sub-Saharan Africa, where some of these reforms have been embraced. And we have seen that no longer do we even have to dispense gas on site. We have had bottling plants done. And that is where I support Mr. Hassan Tampuli in when he made the announcement in May this year, the steps that MPA is taking towards implementing a reform that will seek to site certain gas bottling plants in certain areas zoned out across the country, and then the retail gas fuel stations will only have to go and fetch bottles that are already filled and then pack them on site. Just as we buy Coca-Cola, you go with your empty bottle to the retail shop, and then you change would already fill that. I would want to strongly support that. And again, the president has reiterated his commitment to speed up the necessary processes that will give way for the implementation of these new reforms. And I believe that this is the way we must go. One other concern also has to do with the siting of fuel facilities which in the coming into force of that particular law, it did not seek to relocate gas fuel stations and fuel stations which are very close apart, and even sited in residential areas. I think the Committee on Mines and Energy may have to
take a look at it.
Because we make the laws. If we can even make a reform that will seek to totally transform the on-site dispensing of gas, and that all gas installations in various places will have to change, we will be able to do something about it.
All these are issues that will have to be implemented by authorities. Some have suggested, for instance, that when it happens, we talk about it, and then that's the end of it. So the question is, how committed is the president to this?
Yeah, and that is, I agree with you that that's been the narrative over the years. We've had 8 incidents in the past 3 years. Close to 50 people have perished, unfortunately. More than 500 people have been injured, and that is the starting point of my concern. That I thought that we may have had to move away from the rhetorics, because each time these sad incidents have occurred, we have had committees set up. Each time these incidents have occurred, we have had the relevant agencies come up with their versions, and even as we speak, the previous explosion, the last explosion that occurred at Laboni, the Labadia trade fair area, the investigation is still not conclusive. And even the very causes, the fundamental causes of the incident is not established. But in the wake of this, we had another very similar incident at Takrady. And what happened, anytime these facilities unfortunately go up in flames, we have various stakeholders, they will come up and they will talk. But I believe that this time around, I mean, I avoid avoid bringing any political sentiment in. But we are in a new dispensation, a new regime, and President Akufo-Addo, observing from his posturing and how he has not reneged on any of the promises that he made prior to assuming the high office as president. For instance, the one district, one factory, his commitment to ensuring that free SHS he promised has been rolled out, and even today, the launch of the restoration of nurses training allowance, teachers training allowances, the starting of the NIA cards, and many other planting for food and jobs, and many other policies that he promised that even in the early term of his tenure he has begun implementing. It has earned him that reputation. It has earned him that integrity, that when he says that this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to be committed to, it would not be a mere rhetoric, but it would be a concerted action that will be consensuously discharged. And the president actually also intimated that this coming Thursday, Cabinet will meet and they will take very serious decisions regarding the way forward. But regulation
in May, with all this, in May, the Takrady explosion happened. This was the same president who was running this country. Nothing happened.
Yeah, and I'm saying that, look, if we want to look at things that happened, 8 explosions that have happened in the past 3 years, and nothing was done about it, and then in 2 months, we have seen the commitments that the president has actually come out, even made an announcement through the acting CEO of MPA in May, and then since then they haven't reneged on the necessary processes that will see to the full implementation of the reform. And with the coming into being of this, with the unfortunate incident that occurred, it has even rather sped up the process. And so if there's any credit to give, I would agree with you that we must give it to the president, even for the commitment that he's showing. And unfortunately, these are very sad incidents that I wouldn't even want to share among regimes, that under this person's regime, these number of sad incidents occurred.
It is true, but what you said was that there is change. So your argument is that in the past, these things had happened and nothing was done. But when we changed government in May, there was over 100 people were injured in Takoradi. We didn't see any action from the presidency or from the NP or from the EPA or from any agency. And yet you are asking us to believe that this time round, the president is serious about it. How well are we that indeed he is serious about it?
Right, I have given you antecedents and evidence to actually support my claim that President Akufo-Addo is a man of integrity, a man that does not renege on his commitment when he says them, a man that does what he says he will do, a man that has demonstrated that the major promises that he made, even within the first 9 months of his tenure, he has kickstarted all those major ones, and I mentioned them to you. If a man has shown this commitment in fulfilling promises that he makes, this is not a man whose words one must doubt. And on the issue of gas explosions, is a very unfortunate incident that clearly, when these issues occur, the victims are not identified, whether MPP or NDC or CPP, and that is a sad aspect, and that is where it is even more important that in looking at this, we are actually focused on looking at it, I mean, through the apolitical lens, and to call that whatever actions and steps that are being taken are actually sped up. And one other concern has to do with I listened to the acting CEO of MPA and in giving his account and the audits that had been conducted on this particular fuel station and many other gas fuel stations that are being regulated. And you could actually appreciate the consensus efforts that they are putting in, albeit the certain limitations which quickly he has hinted that he's even going to address. That has to do with the on-site dispensing. And usually when auditors are auditing, it may not be all the occasions where in a particular fuel station your scheduled inspection may include a dispensing of fuel from a truck to the installation, and I believe that getting more auditors on board and even shelling them across the country
is a solution.
Over 600 is one of the solutions. Over 600 gas fuel stations. We need to have the needed manpower to even regulate how dispensing is done, whether it's even done according to procedure. And one other safety measure which has been hinted by the MPA for the implementation, even prior to whichever timeline, which I would appeal that is sped up and within the shortest possible time, we go into the reform where we'll move away from the dispensing of gas on site and go into the bottling of gas. As the issue of installing
you don't
gas
think
detection,
that
gas
agencies
leakage
involved in checking this, from your narration, you think you assume that nobody should be blamed for this?
No, that's not my assumption. If all things had gone well, I mean, we wouldn't come to where we are now.
So who should be blamed for this?
See, when it comes to some of these issues, it will be very easy to blame. And that has been the game, and that's been the practice.
Is that not the beginning of changing the narrative?
Of course, the full investigation will come, and I, sitting here, would not be able to preempt which
but
agency
even before
was,
investigations
which
start,
agency.
You don't think that those in charge of running this sector should be taken on? For instance, people by now should be asked to stay aside and get these investigations done. How do we do investigations with the very people who run these operations still in their offices?
I do not know the point that you're making. But my concern here is that
the 2016 independent candidate of the independent candidate Jacob Sayabwa is asking that the NPA boss should be made to step aside. Because he saw Takoradi and he's seen Atomic.
When some of these calls come, then it's unavoidable to want to play back certain things that have happened. And in the irony, I mean, when you've had 7 incidents happen within a very short time, in some time past, and nobody called for anybody's heads. And then an incident has happened, and then clearly there hasn't been established.
We recorded 7 in just 10 months. We have recorded 2.
No, I'm making a point.
Isn't it a case?
Right, I'm making a point here that, and within this period, quickly one would want to look at calling for heads. See, when people want to call for heads, at least they must wait for the establishment of the facts to even know who and whose responsibilities were.
So how do we establish the fact when the very people who can obstruct the investigations are in office?
If the focus here is not on correcting, but on playing the blame
how do
game,
we correct?
Then we are going
we
are going to be having what has happened in the past.
How do we correct the wrong? How do we correct the wrong?
Blaming people, and I will not, spare anyone who may have been found culpable in the full investigation that this will come. And clearly, this is the whole incident. The initial reports that have been narrated actually point out to the fact that there were leakages at the point of discharge. And when there are leakages at the point of discharge, there are a number of factors. And the obvious ones is there is no gas leakage detector.
It is somebody's job to ensure there is.
And even to ascertain whether
it is somebody's job to ensure there is.
Yes, and whether
there's a regulator.
And whether that particular track has even been authorized or not.
There's a regulator to do that.
And I'm saying that there's a regulator to do that.
So the regulator here failed to do his
investigation. Yeah, you may hold that opinion, but I would want us to look at the issue that had occurred and not quickly just jumping in, because we have had a lot of incidents happen. People have quickly jumped in to blame people. Even one of the first people that was blamed was the kebab seller. Only for people to turn around and say that, oh, he's not to be blamed.
Reverend, let me read the story in the Statesman to you.
People because
now, quickly, even before you go on, a deputy energy minister is suggesting now that the distribution of gas across the country are governed by guidelines from the NPA, which do not have the force of law as it would be in the case of regulations. Now, Dr. Mohammed Amin Anta, Mr. Amin Anta, is saying that I have heard people say we are not enforcing regulations. In fact, we do not have regulations as much as we need in the distribution of LPG as well as siting of gas stations. Now, he said that what we have are guidelines issued by the NPA, and these do not have the force of law as you would get from a law or a regulation. Now, so his argument is that we don't have laws and that what we have are only guidelines. So if we saw Takoradi and 100 people were injured and we knew that we don't have laws, what we have are guidelines, we sat there for this one to happen.
And Bryce, are you only realizing this in the 7 months?
Well, I'm referring to Mr. Amin Anta's issue.
So we should look at this in a very comprehensive manner. We may not pretend that this is the first or second time that we are having such a rather sad incident happening. And my viewpoint is that we must try as much as possible to move away from the blame game, to move away from the premature appetite for calling for heads, but we'd be rather more interested in the comprehensive plan and the way forward and the more effective reform that will ensure that these things, you may sack one person, whether he was culpable or not, and then we haven't really cured what the problem is. And so I would call that we move away from that and ensure that any shortfall from the legislative point of view, which was my first concern, that needs to be strengthened in ensuring that MP is given the necessary legislative infrastructure to operate. We have to look at that. Any reform that we even seek to ensure that the existing 600 gas stations that we have that are even doing on-site dispensing until such a time that we'll move away from the on-site dispensing to bottling of gas stations, we need to beef up safety checks and ensure that certain areas that may have not been adequately factored even in the regulations are looked at, and then as soon as possible those installations are done. And I'm also saying here that I'm appealing to EPA, MPA, municipal MMDC, MMDAs, and all those state agencies whose institutions who have a comprehensive mandate to ensure the regulation of this particular sector does not rest with just one particular agency.
Let me refer you to the Daily Graphic again on the same issue.
Environmental Protection Agency, the municipal and district assemblies, and I'm appealing that every necessary safety checks that have to be ensured particularly with this. You know, when you are talking about the other ones, now with the coming into being of this gas explosion, experts have been proposing some new safety checks. And I'm saying that even in the few months or years, whichever period that may take for us to move away into the implementation of the reform, new safety or more stringent safety measures will come into play.
Now, the Daily Graphic story says the NPA, EPA talk tough about gas explosions. Now, we are told that 2 oil and gas regulatory bodies have initiated separate actions to investigate and check recurrence of the atomic junction gas explosion last Saturday. Now, while the NPA is investigating the incident, the EPA is to embark on an immediate nationwide tour to inspect all the 600 liquefied petroleum gas filling stations. We are told by the paper that during the tour, officials of EPA will close down facilities that pose danger to public safety. This is not new. When it happened at Circle, they did the same. In Takrady, the same was done. When it happened at La, the same thing was done. We are told currently that on the same stretch, Labadi stretch, 2 more filling stations are coming up. So what is happening here is that they are going back to visit these stations, close them down, and then wait, go and sleep. When another explosion occurs, they go and do another visit. Is that it?
Yeah, I think the word may not be to go and sleep, but also to support. But I understand your concern because these are issues. Failure to do so results in unfortunate loss of lives, and it's very sad. It's rather sad that in this day and age we are not able to have a grip on our gas regulations, and then these unfortunate incidents are happening. There was another revelation that even came up that there are 400 such stations across the country that are sited within residential and urban areas, and the question is, there may have been agencies that sanction these siting, and if we have recognized that these sightings pose imminent hazard to the lives around, we may not have to wait for some of these incidents. And that's why I agree with you that we may not have to wait for sad incident to happen for us to adopt a reactive approach to correcting certain things. But if we have identified in various successive audits and inspections that these do not fall within the guidelines or are in breach of the guidelines, the actions must be quickly taken to clamp down and close them down. And I want to see within the next few months and weeks these things actually being taken seriously. And that was why I came in, that I am appealing to the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament
to take it up,
to call some of these agencies and then find out what is actually happening.
All right.
And ensure that every gas fuel station that is not well situated will have to be closed down immediately. And even whilst closing down those who were wrongly cited, we must even be concerned about that part of the law that even gives room for the sporadic citing that on the excuse that they were cited before the coming into being of the law. The law can be changed, and the law can be changed for the betterment of the people of Ghana, and ensure that we may not have to wait for these things. But what will give us a complete cure, in my view, is when we move away from the current system. No matter the safety checks that one may put in, there is still a high level of hazard or danger that is inherent in our current system. And I think that in moving forward, we need to rather take faster steps and hasten the steps that we are taking to move away from on-site dispensing into situating bottling plants across the country and then actually retailing them. One will just go with their empty gas cylinder, and then in exchange of a filled one, we must move away.
Okay, finally on this, some have reacted to the president call for a new policy to deal with the situation. For instance, the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is suggesting that there's no need for another policy. All that we need to do is to get regulators to tighten what they do. They are not alone in that. Again, the 2016 independent candidate, Jacob Asayabwa, is suggesting that the president doesn't need to go formulate any other policy, and that there are enough regulations that when they are adhered to, properly implemented, tightened, it can deal with it. Do we need a policy to deal with this?
I think one may be missing a point if they fail to appreciate the fact that no matter how tightened that you would want to tighten existing regulations, the level of exposure, the exposure in that system is really high, and we should be able to move away from that. One may look at it from the tightening point of view, but that will not give a complete cure to the menace and the unfortunate recurrence of gas explosions that we've been seeing, you know, over the past few years. What will give, I mean, and various experts have argued, majority of them corroborates the position that I hold, and which the acting CEO of MPA holds, and the president holds, that we should move away from the talks, and this one is to check this and check that. Let us, you know, in safety management, you would want to look at the issue from elimination first, as much as possible. If you can eliminate the hazard, that is what you have to look at. Then if you are not able, if the situation is like that, you are unable to completely eliminate the hazard, then you manage it. But when there's opportunity to completely eliminate that hazard of on-site dispensing, why don't we support that? Why do we want to manage the hazard when we can see, and many countries in Africa have adopted that system. Talk about our neighboring countries. I don't want to mention some of those names, but these are not, you know, policy directions that are far-fetched, that are beyond, you know, our capacity and our expertise. We have to move away from strengthening these regulations and
put together a new
policy that will, to a large extent, eliminate the hazard that are inherent in our current system. And that's, I think, when some of these stakeholders would appreciate how this new system works, they will join the call for it. Because you just cite about 5 or 4, you know, giant bottling plants, or 6, zone them out across the country, and all retail, all existing gas fuel stations will now be turned into retail stations. And then all you need to do is just go to the bottling plant and then take your fetch your filled bottles, come and place them. And then consumers will just come with their empty. It's a fantastic system, and I think that is the new direction Ghana must go.
I am grateful. Reverend Johnny Chimfojo is the Member of Parliament for the Asin South constituency, a member of the NPP. Now, we'll move on to some other issue. The Ghana Palava story says, national launch of allowance restoration, a complete disbasement of governance. Now, the story says that later today, President Akufo-Addo will launch the restoration of nursing training allowances at a ceremony in Sunyani in the Bonafo region. The story says, simply put, President Akufo-Addo and his usually large entourage will move an over 60-car convoy filled with expensive fuel paid for by the port taxpayer all the way from Accra to the Bonafo region to tell a gathering of a handful of nursing trainees and party supporters that government will be putting a few hundred Ghana cedis of the taxpayers' money in their accounts monthly in fulfillment of a campaign promise. Now, the Palava says that they think that this is indeed not the right thing to do. And the suggestion is that the allowance itself is ill-considered and has come as a considerable cost to the many prospective nursing students. In order to be able to pay the controversial allowances, the Akufo-Addo government firmly shut the door in the face of many potential applicants to nursing training institutions when making drastic cuts to the number of students admitted this year. So that's the story in the Palava. So, Reverend, the key thing is why the launch of the restoration of an allowance?
Thank you very much. This story, and particularly the very interesting viewpoints that Palava takes, reminds me of a scripture in Matthew chapter 5 verse 15, where it says that no one lights up a candle and puts it under a bushel, but instead they place it on a candlestick, that it gives light to all those that are in the house. It's some of these important policies, if people would really appreciate how it comes across to the ordinary Ghanaian like myself, and how relieving it is, then they may appreciate that, you know, launching it is a step in the right direction. You see, we are looking at I always want to use my life as an example and the struggles that I've been through in my studies, and the hardship, that the untold hardship that the scrapping of the nursing training allowances, the teacher training allowances brought on households, brought on students. There were people who were sharing their testimony with me, how at the time that they were in various nursing training institutions and teacher training institutions, how the allowances that they enjoyed was even what actually in some cases helped them to even support families back home. And so you appreciate that. You see, many of us and the category of people who find themselves in this category of schools are not in the middle class, are not in the elites, in the upper class. They have genuine challenges even getting by in school. And if these policies, which were premised on the intent of ensuring that the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian has been prioritized, and some level of assistance is given just to ease make their stay convenient, to relieve their burden, and insensitively it was scrapped. And at some point in time, the same people who scrapped it realized that no, I think we need to take a U-turn on this. We want to reintroduce. Why was that decision taken after the scrapping? To realize that no, I think it's important that we agree with Nana Akufo-Addo on his viewpoints that it is important that there's a continued payment of this policy. At some point that they attempted to reintroduce it, albeit it failed. But when the president made a promise and the good people bought into it, he has come in and he has shown again that he has not reneged on the promise of showing sensitivity to the plight of Ghanaians and ensuring that what will go to a large extent in enhancing the life of the ordinary Ghanaian who may not be as wealthy as the people who may disagree with the reintroduction of this allowance. We must applaud the president. It is important that we reintroduce the teachers' training allowances have been restored. Now, nurses' training allowances are about 68,000. I heard a comment somewhere in the narrative, the paper, that a handful of nurses and all. See, one may, however, the attempt, one may want to discount this. One thing that stands, and it's a fact and it's undisputed, is that many Ghanaians will appreciate that. You see, that most households in Ghana will have one or two relatives that fall within this 68,000 nurses.
Right.
Yeah, that are going to benefit from and every year they are going to be paid this for,
Reverend,
for 10 months.
The key question, you have raised how important this is. Yeah. The key question is that will the objective not have been achieved if this restoration is not launched? There's a ceremony which, of course, will mean cost to the taxpayer. So the key question is, could government have put the money straight into the accounts of these nurses without necessarily holding a debat to launch a restoration of an allowance?
We have had some very interesting narratives in this country where a factory which had not even been fully constructed and established was commissioned.
So you're doing the same thing?
Was that no? I'm coming. I want to make a point. Was there not? Was it not a ceremony? Was there not cost incurred?
So
and even that, even in that instance, no, I'm coming. I'm making. There are two different instances. I'm just giving. I'm just drawing a contrast between being in programs that were even failure from the start. Effort and funds were spent at launching it, and the eventuality we all saw it was a complete failure. And we are looking at such an important restoration. Funds have been made ready, and they are just about to be dispersed. And anyone that may discount the importance of the launch of the restoration,
what would the launch do?
No, anyone that may discount.
No, what would the launch do to? No,
I'll give you a very interesting. I'll give you a very interesting point. I've had the opportunity to seek the views of some of the people who today are who have a contrary view to the launch of this nursing training allowances, and they are the same people who even cite instances in some shortfalls in their government as failure to place priority to areas that really needed priority in terms of communicating out the important policies.
So the launch is a priority.
It's a very important. It's
the launch of the restoration of
the restoration of nursing training allowance is very important to the ordinary Ghanaian.
Which the ordinary Ghanaian appreciates. The case here is the launch of the ceremony. The restoration is not in doubt. The case here is the ceremony. put people together, spend the taxpayers' money, organize fanfare. How key is it?
How's launching fanfare?
Those who will come and sing will be paid for. Those who come and dance will be paid for. The tents will be paid for.
And what budgets
I don't know
are the people attributing to? Is it, and that is where, is it, if in every move, I think that it is we may not have to attempt to do politics with everything. And much as we all have, I mean, different views, there are certain things, particularly when they are very important and so dear to the heart of the ordinary Ghanaian, we must be very sensitive and respect that this is something that is very important to a wide spectrum of the population we have in Ghana, and for which a lunch is respectable.
I see.
And let us view it that way. One failure to appreciate the extent, the importance, the level of importance of the restoration, what this restoration means to the ordinary Ghanaian. Failure to appreciate it, one may be entitled to his view that this is not necessary. But I hold the view
the launch is important. We are told, for instance, that one of the reasons why there was a quota system, or the schools, the training colleges had to put a cap on how many students they could admit, was because the schools do not have the infrastructure. So they can't open their doors to every person. Now, you don't also think that if infrastructure is an issue, whatever cost that we will accrue from this launch could have gone into providing space for just one student?
I think I understand where those who hold this view are coming from. When we have had incidents of millions, gargantuan monies expended on very simple ceremonies happen in the past, then one may be tempted to think that the same thing is going to happen, that another gargantuan budget is going to be expended on some of these launches. And the truth is, in President Akufo-Addo's government, he is running a government not on some of these, I mean, people buying tea, spending this, and inflate. In the past, maybe some people have seen some of these launches as opportunity to inflate certain costs and then just to cause financial loss to the state. But I do not know how much we are going to spend. But I'm just taking antecedents from
the story has a photograph of a T-shirt.
No, let me make a
nurse midwife trainees allowance restored.
I am just making allusions to similar ceremonies that have been launched and the cost that had been incurred, and compared to the narratives that we had in some of the previous ones. So if that was the angle they are coming from, for which they are concerned that some monies are going to be blown, I can assure them that, I mean, gargantuan money is not going to be blown on this ceremony. It's a very modest one, and it's a very important one that has to be done, albeit it will be done in all modesty. So that they can be rest assured on that.
All right, I'm grateful.
But again, on the infrastructure, it is a concern that we all must be concerned about.
Right. That
much as year on year, where every successive year we are having the population of people going into various institutions increasing, we also need to look at a commensurate strategy to expand. And the president has hinted that, particularly even with free SHS, it's not just going to be the payment of school fees, but this budget that is coming will feature provision that will make to have commensurate, expansion in infrastructure to be able to contain the increasing demands and increasing interest of students that have been enrolled in these institutions. So that priority is already acknowledged by the president.
Okay, I'm grateful. Let's quickly deal finally with this one, and then we can get off from our seats. The finder says comprehensive action plan against fall army worms unveiled. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture has announced allocating an amount of 3.1 million cedis to the National Task Force on the fall army worms to undertake a comprehensive action plan beginning October 2017 to March 2018 as part of measures to prevent the resurgence of the pest later next year when the planting season begins. The allocated amount, which forms part of the 15 million cedis released by Cabinet earlier this year to control the epidemic, will be used to organize radio and TV talk shows across the country to sensitize and create more awareness of the prevalence of the pest and the consequences on the economy and the livelihood of the families. The minister has already paid for airtime to play jingles at Unique FM and other radio stations across the country. So, Reverend, let's wrap up on this one. The ministry perhaps taking proactive measures just before the next season's planting starts. Some more money released to deal with the resurgence. We have told that in 2016, when we fought them, we did not wipe them. That is why they reappeared this year. Now, perhaps this is indeed effort at making sure the worm is defeated once and for all.
It's very important, the approach that has been taken by the Minister of Food and Agriculture, the very pragmatic approach that is being taken to ensure that even before the onset of the next planting season, this threat to the important policy of planting for food and jobs is actually dealt with. Already there's been various interventions that the ministry has put in place in attacking this outbreak and ensuring that the farms are restored and alternative measures are given. But moving forward, it's to ensure that we have, to a large extent, the total elimination of this outbreak and to safeguard our produce. Corn, this fall armyworm poses very serious threats even on food security. It has implications on food security, and we even run in food deficits. I mean, and with this in the coming to be the planning for food and jobs, where farmers are assisted and given seedlings and fertilizers and implements and assistance to plant as large acreages as possible. It is important that we even take more pragmatic steps and strategy and invest more in ensuring that whatever investment government together with the farmers will put into this policy will be safeguarded. And I commend the Ministry of Food and Agriculture on that. And my appeal here is that all the implementing agencies and the various departments under the Ministry of Agriculture, who are actually the implementing agencies for this investment, together with the MMDAs, will have to consensuously apply these resources to ensure that the farmer is protected and given the needed assistance for his produce to be protected.
Reverend, I'm grateful for your time with me this morning. Reverend John
Thank you very much for your time.
A member of Parliament for the Asin South constituency, a member of the NPP there, talking to me on some of the newspapers here. But quickly, let's jump into some other issues this morning. For the traditionalists of the Shai state in the Manya Jopanya community in the Greater Accra region, the climbing of the Shai Mountain and offering prayers are spiritual exercise which connect indigenes to their ancestors. Observing also as part of the Mayam festival is one of the special way to prepare their food to feed the ancestors. We'll tell you exactly what goes into that. But first, let's take a quick look at some of the comments you have just sent us in. Johnny is back once again. Johnny, good morning.
Absolutely, Senior Bright, thank you very much. And good morning, TV3, and good morning to Ghanaians. Ministers and major stakeholders in the country now makes decisions whenever something serious happens, and also the major TV stations will make it their headlines for some days. Then boom, you no longer hear anything about it, where it's gotten to or whatever. An example is the killing of a military man on a mission. Where has the case gone so far, and who is informing Ghanaians? Honorable Kobe Tepa and Ashanti. Well, Kobe, if you've been watching TV3, we've been following extensively on that, and the last report we gave you was how some of the suspects had brought Bibles to the court, an indication perhaps that they had repented of their actions. Jerry John Osin from Odoko says, good morning. All that our leaders know is to sit there and do nothing and wait for the disaster to strike before they come out and do show off. My condolences to the family of the Netu cameraman who lost his life due to the explosion, which could have been prevented if only our leaders thought of us. Good morning, Senior Bright, Johnny and Amma. It's very sad to hear this. Politics will continue to prove costly until we allow the laws to work. May the victim's soul rest in peace. Osman Burgison in Tamale. Measures are to be taken before something happens, rather than calling for different press conferences here and there. Kobe. Johnny, could you believe that at Ketu South Municipal Assembly, a filling station was sited at the middle of, you mean in a residential area? I mean, be it Beat 9 Junction. Oh my God, something must be done. Amuzu Solo Oscar from Georgia in the Volta region. Good morning, TV3. Well, I believe it's high time gases are connected to burners directly and bill paid monthly just like water. So people would not have to go to the gas filling station. These stations could be situated far away from the residences. Bright and Johnny, please tell TV3 should help the people of Agona Street Road because of a certain fuel station at the Agona Street Road is sited at the main market called the Mandela Market. Traders sit alongside the walls of it and sell, and even some enter there to sell. Please, I would plead that TV3 comes to our aid and help us because it could be a danger one day. Abeku Chibis in Agona Street Road. The launch of the restoration of the allowance is not necessary. MPP is failing gradually and someone must be bold to tell them. There are sycophants around the president who give him bad advice. I lost faith and trust in this government the very day he named 110 ministers, Seth in Accra. Good morning to you. There's nothing wrong with the launch of the restoration of the allowance. Whether or not dancers and other attendees will be paid isn't the matter. Fact is that it's very important flagship program and must be celebrated. Sule in Tamale. Good morning, Bright. It's about time we got serious as a country. What is the tangible ratio in launching to restore an allowance? It is bogus. It must be condemned by all. Ifo in Newtown, Kumasi. And please, I want to find out from your guest, whether the government will include the veterinary colleges in the training college student allowance that's to put up. And Mr. Host, why do we celebrate Independence Day with a cost? Let's try not to be too petty for criticism's sake from Bao in Kumasi. Interesting. But Reverend, the veterinary colleges, are they part of your plan? The restoration of the allowances?
Are they training colleges?
I'll need to check that. But the what has been launched specifically for nursing training.
For nursing training.
Yeah, but the veterinaries are a very important, institution that we may also have.
The nurses are for humans, so the veterinary people they are for them.
It's very important, and we may have to consider them.
Like a dog doctor.
All right, Reverend. Once again, I'm grateful for your time with us. Those of you who sending your comments, keep them coming. We're grateful for you sending your comments. Stay with us. Now, let's take you to the Manya Jopenya area where Josephine Frimpong put this together for us.
A day before the Grand Durbar to climax the festival, the chiefs and people of Manya Jopanya thronged the Shai Hills Reserve to offer prayers to the ancestors. Led by the chief priest, who is the caretaker of the Nadu Shrine, indigents of Manya Jopanya, together with their deity, converged at the entrance of the hill to offer sacrifice. Per the tradition, women must come along with cooking utensils and food to cook. When indigents progress to the third hill, libations are poured. When a group of climbers got to this rock, fatigue sets in. As they journeyed to the top of the mountain, these caves were discovered. We were told in the olden days, indigents hid in them to fight attackers.
just pour libation for our forefathers, and we remember them when they were here. So there's nothing which is wrong. Everything is good. So we can make sure we go by what they are doing previously.
When they come out of the caves, they perform some rituals like dancing to the warrior songs. The chief priest then begins to sprinkle millet, which is the main food crop used to prepare meals for the festivities. Aside climbing the hill, indigents of Manya Jopanya also celebrate the Mayim festival. Mayim is a Dangbe word for millet. The festival is celebrated every year to remember a period of drought and hunger followed by abundant rains that led to the bountiful harvest of millet to the ancestors. At the apex of one of the hills is this dam.
It's a dam. The under is a stone, but the water is a water, the surface is all water. But during the dry season, then they go down there to fetch water. But when it's raining, this is the water they use. You know, it's a very large community. So you cannot come here anytime, unless there's a festival occasion, you can come here. And you cannot come and fish here because the government is taking care, they protect the whole area. And we like it that way. It's not because of the government acquiring this area, fence it. By now, other people, investors will come here and destroy the whole thing.
The people of Shai originated from Israel to their current abode. Whilst migrating, they encountered severe drought, which culminated into extreme farming for a considerable period of time. During the period, many lives were lost, and in their desperation, prayers and sacrifices were made to the Nadu shrine.
The culture we are doing, or the festival, you will see that Manya Jopanya is developing very, very fast. Our forefathers, if you are a youth, the respect given to the elders are different. Today, the youth they didn't give respect to the elders. So we are advising them through tradition that we should not see where we are now, but copy what our forefathers have done in their time. That there's more respect for elders and there's love. Somebody who is not your child, you love him. When you have something small, you will like him or her to come and be part of it. So we are copying what our forefathers have done.
Indigents believe the ancestors have come to accept their sacrifice, hence the need to begin the celebration of the festival. Soon, it will be the turn of the nearby communities such as Osuwim and Osudoku.
Welcome back and thank you very much. Millions of voters in Liberia will be casting their votes this morning. We understand that voting is underway and they will be voting to elect a president and some legislators. This will be the very first time after 1944, since 1944, that a constitutionally elected government will be handing over to another if the elections go on smoothly. But you remember also that in 2003, after the Civil War, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected. She has had two 6-year terms, and so constitutionally, by that mandate, her tenure ends and she steps down. Let's cross over now to a woman on the beat in Liberia, Sally Gay. She's a journalist and she joins us on the phone line. Sally, good morning. Hello, Sally. Good morning. Hello, Sally Gay. Good morning. well, we're trying to establish contact with Sally Gay, and as I said earlier, millions of Liberians will be casting their votes out there. The key issues ahead of the elections. A fight against corruption. They're talking about reviving the faltering economy. They're also talking about jobs, promise, key issues that could decide the polls. President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has been lauded as a key, and in fact, the continent's very first female president. We'll tell you about the forerunners in the election shortly. And we'll also cross over to Liberia and bring you some latest updates as to what exactly is happening there, the mood and the times and the occasion, and how the people are voting. It's been a very heated, campaign, and we'll bring you. We'll bring you that update. Well, so as I said earlier, millions of Liberians are voting today all across the Republic of Liberia. You remember that 2000 up to 2003, they had their own set of challenges and civil war in that particular country. And now, hopefully, the international community is watching. A lot of work has been put in there. And Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has been able to transform the nation from the doldrums to a very spectacular African nation, which has become the pride of Africa. Let's cross over now to Liberia. And Sally Gay is a journalist. She's a woman on the beat. Hello, Sally. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. And how are you doing? How is Liberia? What's the mood in Liberia this morning?
Well, everybody is gathering up to vote, and so far we have a peaceful atmosphere for now.
How is the election panning out? Are the people coming out to vote?
Yeah, people turning out, people being around since 7 this morning. They are now on queue. Police center just opened, and they are now on the queue about to exercise their constitutional right.
The key actors in the election, the four running candidates, have they cast their votes already?
Well, most of them are out of Maserado, with the exception of George Ria, who registered in Maserado and will be expecting anytime soon. We just saw his securities around, so anytime soon we'll be expecting him. For the president, she registered in her home county, which is about 30 minutes drive from here, and the rest of them are like 6 hours drive from Maserado.
Talk about security. How does it look like?
Well, so far we have a security system inside. So every police center, the 5,495 police centers across Liberia have immigration, police, and armed forces personnel at every police station so far.
There's usually a challenge when it comes to starting elections on time in many parts of Africa. Did the election start at the allotted time in Liberia this morning?
For where I was, it started at the exact time, but where I'm driving to now, I can't tell until I get there.
Very interesting. Though, how is the international media, the presence of the international media, is it heavy out there in Liberia?
While they are around, and we have the CNN, the BBC, and other guys around, we see them mostly when the candidates were launching and closing their campaigns, and we following them up. Everybody really actually trying to preach peace about this time. No matter what, no matter who wins, but like we will come first, and we should be able to secure this peace that we have for 12 long years.
So tell me, how many parliamentarians or legislators are we hoping to elect? The people of Liberia are hoping to elect at this particular election?
72 lawmakers. We call them lawmakers because the senators are part of them.
Right.
But they are represented. They are rep for every district. So there are 72 rep we're expecting to have after 12 midnight tonight.
I see. Sally, I thank you very much. Unless there's something you'd want to let us know before you go, quickly.
Well, nothing much. It's just that today, especially this time in Liberia, is a rainy season, and up to now we are experiencing sun. So at least we have the time now to go out and cast our vote. And I want to say thank you to the Ghanaian media for showing so much interest into our Liberian election. All we pray for is peace, and we have a smooth transition.
Thank you very much. Sally Gay is a journalist. She's a woman on the beat out there in Liberia, where millions of voters will decide who becomes president, and some 72 lawmakers, as they call it in that part of the country. Remember that in 2003, the Civil War ended, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf became the first female president of the continent. She's had 2 6-year terms, and so she's handing over, and that will be the first since 1944 when a democratically elected president handed over to another. If all things go well, and we pray it does, because the international community is focusing on Liberia at this point, Liberia would have yet another success story to tell. Africa must rise one more time. It's time for... Thank you very much and welcome back. Let me say a very wonderful happy birthday to you, Faustin Apia of the UMB Marketing Department. And this is from Grace Amwasari at 3FM 92.7. And to you, Claudia Davis, Her Royal Majesty, that's what your husband calls you. It's your birthday today from your husband, Opemu Woyomi of the GMA. Happy birthday to you. And Babina sent me a message, Jemima Korte, happy birthday to you as well. Enjoy your day and make sure that it pans out well. Well, so we're talking drug abuse and self-medication. Amos Adiako is a quality assurance manager, ISO coordinator, and Kwejo Asari Trefo is the managing director. Guys, welcome. Good morning. And how are you doing? Interesting though, but the phenomenon of self-medication is so heavy around this part of town. Somebody wakes up, has a headache, or what seems like, fever, malaria. They walk into the drugstore and they request for medication, and they start treating themselves because of a previous experience. How dangerous is that?
Well, the danger is, for example, the headache that you said. Don't know what is causing the headache. Headache is just the symptoms of something happening in the system. So it will be very dangerous for you to just go and take any medicine because you are having headache. So the best thing to do, if you get to the pharmacy shop, ask for the pharmacist. Tell him your problem, to have some interactions with him. He'll be able to know what kind of headache you are having, and if possible, recommend a medication.
Right.
If it's not, he can recommend you to go and see a physician to actually know the cause before medicine is taken.
There are itinerant drug sellers. You find them in the buses, in the lorry parks. They have a compendium of medication in plastics, and they give their own interpretation to what it can solve and what it cannot solve. Have you seen some of them?
Yes, we see most of them in the lorry parks and other places. And it's so unfortunate that we allow those people who don't have any knowledge in the field to be selling those drugs to our friends, our brothers and sisters.
Okay.
So the advice is that everybody should ensure that he or she will, as my boss have said, visit a pharmacy shop.
Okay.
Then you'll be advised on the drug advice. Then they will advise you also on the sickness and how to treat it, and they will prescribe the correct drug and dosage for you.
I'm curious, Kwejo, really, why is it so tempting around this part of town for people to want to abuse drugs or to indulge in self-medication? What is the temptation?
Well, the temptation is at times they look at it's part of our culture. You know, in the olden days when you are sick, you just take some herbs and then off you go. And it's becoming part of us, but we should move from that angle. some to look at the cost and the time they waste at the hospitals, maybe going to queue for a long time before they get the medication. If it just headache, why not just take some paracetamol and go home?
Right.
Than going to hospital to go through all this.
So it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
How do we get away from that?
The best way to get away from that is to, as I said, recognize the role of the community pharmacists that they play within their communities. So for any health issues, the community pharmacists around, you can report to them. Then they'll take it up from there, advise you on what to do. And then if it's beyond their means, they'll refer you to their clinics and hospitals.
You are a pharmacist, so you can speak emphatically about it. How about the phenomenon where you have a pharmacy, your son is out of secondary school or is an SS leaver, he joins you in the pharmacy every now and then, he learns 1 or 2 medications, he sees you dispensing medicine, and so by default he also becomes a pharmacist, plenipotentiary. How dangerous is that one too?
Because the person has not been trained.
But does it happen at all?
It does happen, and now we are moving away from that. It does. That's why now it's important that the pharmacist must be in the pharmacy shop almost all the time to make sure he attend to patients. And we are also moving from just giving the medicine just over the counter. You need to do counseling.
Right.
Sit the person down, counsel the person, let him know why he's taking the medicine and the interaction that may happen.
Okay.
So that is what we are doing now.
That's what you're doing now.
Yes.
In the scheme of things, within the next 5 years, there was an issue about the M pedigree checking for fake medicines and all of that. Sometimes you go to the pharmacy, you buy medicine, you use it, 3 weeks, no action. Really, the influx of fake medicine coupled with self-medication, are we getting to any end?
We are, because recently the Food and Drug Authority, they are becoming more stringent in drug registrations and monitoring. They are enforcing their rules. So fake substandard medicine is a problem not in Ghana, but in the whole West African region, in the country as a whole. So I think the new monitoring system is being put in place to help reduce this impact.
To add to that, the regulatory authority have also ensured that every company, manufacturing company in the country now should have a pharmacovigilance unit. Whereby you have people that are getting feedback from the doctors concerning your products, from the market concerning your products. Then you give reports also to them. So if they also go to the field and have any response, they will contact the pharmacovigilance units of the institutions, then they can be able to solve those problems. So that also is helping to curb the fake medicines that are...
Let me ask one big question. Is it ever possible for us to end drug abuse and self-medication in this country? Is it ever possible?
It will take a long time.
How long will it take?
I can't give the time. It depends on us, our attitude, changing our attitudes, changing our culture, and then understanding the systems, working with the right systems. Then it can help.
But if your mother has gone through, if your mother has blood pressure, for example, and she's used to taking a certain medication, and you develop it, touch wood, and she advises that you take it, your mother is giving you credible advice. Why would you have cause to doubt it?
No, but the point is, what caused the pressure in my mother may not be the same as the cause in me. So the best thing to do is to contact the doctor for him to diagnose and then give the right prescriptions. Yes.
Amos, you're an ISO coordinator. What does it mean to have an ISO certification? In fact, I mean, congratulations to Entrance Pharmaceuticals for this. But what does it mean?
It means that internationally, our processes that you have put in place, the quality management system, internationally accepted that we have a good system in place that can be compared to any other company in the world.
So that's what it means.
Yes.
And that if people are looking for medicines, that's where they need to go.
Yes. When they need any medicine, they are sure that the products or the medicines that comes out of Entrance are of the highest quality, that if they buy innovative drugs from the market, from Europe, it can be compared to those products.
I thank you very much. Kwejo Asari-Trifo is the Managing Director of Entrance Pharmaceuticals, and Amos Adiako is a Quality Assurance Manager and the ISO Coordinator. Guys, thank you very much for coming. We'll take a break at
Come back. You're still here on New Day. Definitely, you must be wondering what we're going to talk about in our next segment, but HR seems to be a big issue, and I'm sure you're interested in that. And so we're talking about it because there's a conference and an awards day coming up. So I had to speak to this issue, David Mills. He's a business strategy officer at NewDay Services Limited. I also have Rivana Echampon. She's editor-in-chief for HR Focus magazine. Welcome, gentlemen and lady, and good morning. How are we doing?
Doing great. Thank you.
Very well. So tell me a little about HR Conference and Awards. I know the conference is the 5th, the awards is the 3rd, but what exactly is it targeted at doing?
Okay, so the HR Focus Conference, I'm breaking it down. The HR Focus Conference brings together HR practitioners, CEOs, to deliberate on issues affecting the world of work and then come up with innovative solutions to these issues. And then the awards bit recognizes and rewards organizations and individuals who have distinguished themselves in HR best practice.
Right. But this has been going on for years. This won't be the first. I just want to know, looking at it, what has been the impact of these awards on the person to receive them and how they, go about their work, such that it impacts on the Ghanaian lives as a whole? David?
I think, first and foremost, we need to recognize that HR is an important aspect of every business.
Right.
And HR has evolved from the days of personal management to a strategic business partner. There's been a constant evolution, and that's what NewDay and the HR Focus Conference seeks to champion. But to answer your question, I think that the award winners themselves are people that reflect the modern trends in HR. And that's the more reason they actually win the awards, because there's a rigorous process, which I'm sure Rebina will speak to later on. There's a technical committee that adjudicates their presentations. And then before the awards, we finally settle on who wins the award. So there are people that reflect what HR should be. Admittedly, the pace is slow. We can do more. However, I think that with what the HR Focus Conference is doing, we are championing a revolution towards getting HR where it ought to be.
Right, but your theme is very interesting for this year. You say talent and culture, the future of HR. Why did we choose this theme?
Well, like David said, HR is evolving, it is growing, and we are looking at how talent and culture will play out in the future of HR, considering the fact that we have millennials now who are now becoming the major part of the workforce. They have different attitudes, the way they think, the way they act, they are entrepreneurial. So how is HR positioning itself to deal with this group of people?
And that same question for you, do you think the Ghanaian atmosphere of HR is really what we're looking for? Are we achieving what HR is supposed to be on the global front? Do we match up?
I think there are a lot of uncharted territories and we can do better.
We definitely can do better. And to that, David, you are, a business strategist. So definitely you've seen some of the issues that have come up. We definitely do complain. You go to the banks and the HR atmosphere there is appalling. You go to shops and it seems someone thinks they're doing you a favor by, serving you. What have you identified? What are some of the challenges you've identified and how are you trying to bridge this gap to make it better?
All right. I think for a very long time, HR was alienated from the business. So typically HR did HR for itself, not for the business. But like I'm saying, the HR Focus Conference and Awards and NewDay Services is keen at championing an effort to get us there. What I believe we ought to do is that we need more of these events, more of these conferences.
Definitely.
And then we also need a deliberate effort to build the capacity of HR professionals to step up. I do admit that we have, for a very long time, perhaps taken the humane aspect out of HR.
Definitely.
So, and we need to bring it back. People are more than resources. They have feelings, they have emotions. Customers buy for two reasons. They buy for the physical product, but also buy for respect. So typically somebody would walk out of a shop if his minutes is being wasted. So HR has to relate its strategy, its practices, its systems and processes to help the business create value for the customer. We all admit that the customer is the most important person in a business. He pays everybody. And HR must connect its practices to the value creation process. And I think that's really what the conference is about. So we're looking at talent and culture in the sense that people matter. Ravina talked about the millennial workforce. They are a very interesting generation. They probably would want to work from hotel lounges, from the home, from beaches. They don't want instructions. Just tell me what to do and I'll get it done. You know, and this is a very interesting breed that has come into the workforce, and HR has to align its culture so that we embrace them. It's two things: either they come to influence the culture for the negative, or we shape them for the better. But it's a challenge for HR, and that's what the conference seeks to do.
Right. So, Ravina, tell me about the conference. What are your events outlined for this conference?
So we have the WebSoft Solutions HR Forum, and that's where they would have HR practitioners and CEOs coming together to deliberate on issues affecting the world of work. And then we have the career development session and business challenge. The career development session will equip students, job seekers, young business executives with the necessary tools for career advancement. And then the business challenge will have schools, tertiary institutions. We have UPSA, UGBS, Wisconsin University, and Pentecost University coming to form, norm and form, and come up, solve case studies.
Right. And then you've got the awards, which is the big night. But when exactly are these things taking place?
All right, so the WebSoft Solutions HR Forum, WebSoft, because that's our tagline sponsor, WebSoft Solutions HR Forum comes up on the 12th, which is Thursday. It's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So the career development session starts from 12:30 to 5. The HR Forum, which Ravina talked about, is from 8 to 12:30. Then there will be corporate exhibitions all through the day from 8 to 5 o'clock. Companies will exhibit their HR processes, their products and services to the people that come around. It's important to mention that the Business Challenge is one of our flagship brands as part of this whole HR Focus Conference Awards. What we seek to do is to, it's probably Ghana's biggest business competition for tertiary institutions. So Ravina mentioned the participating schools. There will be speaking to a case study. There's a panel that's going to adjudicate the case, and then a school would eventually pop up as a winner. Last year, University of Professional Studies won. I don't think they may win this year. They may, but they may not win.
Because the competition is keen.
And the schools are
but I'm sure they're well versed for that. Obviously, they want to keep their stance. Anyway, but who are the speakers? No, you mentioned when, but you didn't mention where. Where exactly is this taking place?
So the HR conference is happening at the College of Physicians and Surgeons. So that's the forum and the career development session. And then the HR Focus Awards is at the State House Banquet Hall.
And who will be speaking?
Okay, so for the forum, for the HR forum, we have Reverend Celia Piaget Collins, who's an international leadership expert, president of Rehoboth Foundation in the UK. We also have Mr. Kobina Atabedu. He's the CEO of United Wealth. We have Mr. Michael Ejejan, CEO of African Concrete Products. We have Taka Awori, Managing Director of Busara Africa. And then we have Anne Margaret Showman of Mesa Consultancy in South Africa. The speakers for the HR forum and the career development session.
So you're bringing big boys and big ladies over. Anyway, but also who can be part of this event? Can I, as a doctor, be there?
Yes, because you were talking about HR issues. So yes, you can be there. The transformation does not only end with the practitioner, but with the employee too. So yes, you can.
Is it free? Is it open for all?
Yes, the HR conference is free. But the HR awards that you would have to purchase a ticket.
Because you give us small food to eat, we have to pay anyway. But which people are helping you? Because I'm sure this has taken some money out of your coffers, so you need the help you can. You can acknowledge them quickly.
Ravina will talk about the sponsor, but let me just quickly mention the awards. I think we haven't thrown so much light on that. It's a flagship. It's also, an integral part of this whole event. So the HR Focus and Awards, which happens biennially, once every 2 years, is supposed to recognize HR practitioners who are keen on implementing progressive HR practices. So like I said, it's a technical committee that samples nominations. People nominate themselves and are also nominated. And the technical committee rigorously assesses them and comes up with a final list. 3 of the most important awards is the Employer of Choice, the most promising, or the most
promising HR
organization, and then the overall HR practitioner of the year.
And then overall best HR practice.
Overall best HR organization HR practice. So this is taking place on the 13th, which is Friday at State House, and it starts at 6 p.m. So Ravina would mention the sponsors.
And in all, we are given about 22 awards. Yes.
22.
Yes,
I hope we feel the impact, because we're tired of all these awards where people just get the name, the fame, and that's it. But happens. The impact, we need to feel it as well.
So you see, aside the sector awards, we have the individual categories, so learning and development, recruitment and selection, etc. So then you are touching on that. So the sponsors, we have WebSoft Solutions, Bond Savings and Loans, Mercer Consultancy, The First Group, British Council, Unibank, Barclays Bank, JCB Bank, United World, Casaprecon, Yvette, Star Life, Zoom Lion, TXT Ghana, Ghana Web, CTFM TV3, of course, Lene Services Limited, Middle Productions, and Crystal Oasis.
Indeed, you've got all the money to get your program going. We'll be there to enjoy. Thank you so much, David and Ravina, for joining me and throwing more light on HR Focus Conference and Awards. So you heard all about it on this platform. I hope you participate one way or another and enjoy what they have for us. We'll have more here on New Day, so stay with us.
Jeremy sweet man, Charlie.
Yeah, but I don't see any of them wearing Jeremy Day.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's in their hearts. Or they just ordered from Google Play Store.
It hasn't reached yet. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So this is Tilapia's animation of the fight against wrongful sighting of gas receptacles or stations, and it says all hands on deck to arrest gas explosion. All hands on deck. So that's it. The EPA, the NPA, the president and fire service, everybody else. Why is there no local assembly or the district assembly? Because their key thing in here, tilapia. So NPA, yes, EPA, president, yes, fire service, but the local assemblies, those who grant the licenses for the people to actually go and site the gas stations at the locations that they are. You should put them in there. Perhaps they are the major cause of the problem. If they don't afford the people the land space, they won't be able to put it there because they can't put it in the sky. So Tilapia amend the cartoons so that we can get it. A few of the messages though, well, maybe one or two. It says, please Bright, good morning to you and your panelists. As the MPP man, when they'll post the newly trained teachers, we voted for them because we didn't want this cock and bull story. No one from the ministry is saying anything. I hold my peace, but I've already made up my mind. I'm not a politician. All I want is my posting. I won't vote again in this country. Apana Vitus Zwarungu in Bolga. And if Mother Ghana politicians are not prepared to enforce the laws to restore discipline in Ghanaian society, the people they are ruling will continue to be the victims of such calamities. And one day your politicians become useless under the sun. Alaji Wilipi in Ifikuma. One that caught my attention. It says he is idle and is watching New Day. Says, good morning TV3. I'm very glad sitting idle listening to your New Day program. To conclude, I'm sitting idle doing nothing because the tradition of paying student allowance was changed by a particular party, and particular party is also struggling to pay allowance and change the tradition of posting trainees immediately they complete. Keep your good work going on. Best TV station in Ghana. TV3 no size. They don't bring the allowance, so the brother he's dancing Jeremy. But Babina, this one, this one is
that Babina's friend?
He's holding an iPhone.
Yeah, you know she's a
pork
farmer.
Yeah. But this one is a pork.
No, she's a friend of Babina. So
but Babina, so
monkey.
This one is Aponchi brake and clutch repairs. Yeah,
I saw Babina. She had a huge pork in the
Babina. This is Aponchi.
Please let Babina rest this morning.
Aponchi brake and clutch repairs.
So for live branch. Anyway, but congratulations to Dr. and Mrs. Gamba. Congratulations to you. You got married over the weekend.
Yeah.
We pray for God's blessings.
And happy birthday to you, sweet Faustina, a PR of UMB Marketing and PR Department. Happy birthday to you from Grace Amwasari. And to you, Mrs. Claudia Davis as well. Enjoy your day.
See you.